The following program has been arranged by the Division of Game and Fish.
Here is the story of the Bluegrass State's great outdoors.
This is Kentucky Afield.
Kentucky Afield.
Welcome to Kentucky Afield.
Kentucky Afield.
More than 50 years. And still fit as a fiddle.
This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglan.
Fall is officially here. Fall has a special place in Kentucky. It's cooler outside, fall colors, fall hunting seasons, fantastic fishing, it's festival season, and fall breaks for many schools. We go inside outdoors this week with the Kentucky Office of Adventure Tourism, and we are going to peek at what's waiting. Maybe that's for a day, an afternoon, or for a long weekend. It's fall, y'all, so grab your jacket. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio.
I may never score the winning touchdown.
And I may never win the 100-meter dash, but I might.
But I can score one for the outdoors with a Kentucky Nature's Finest license plate.
The Bobcat, Butterfly, and Cardinal plates have helped protect nearly 100,000 wilderness acres across our great state.
And that's a win for us all.
Yeah.
I may never hit a hole-in-one to win the championship.
No, I may never kick that winning goal.
But the outdoors need a champion, and they have one in Nature's Finest plates.
They have one in you.
Hip's a hip word. Hip-hop music. This cat is really hip, says 70s star Sammy Davis Jr. But for migratory bird hunters, HIP is the law. HIP stands for Harvest Information Program. To hunt birds like doves or geese, you must complete the HIP survey first to help officials better estimate game bird populations. Go to the My Profile page at the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife website. You just need 5 minutes. Hip hip hooray. fw.ky.gov. Welcome to Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Charlie Baglan. Fall fun and the outdoors around Kentucky. That's the topic this hour. The spokesman for the Kentucky Office of Adventure Tourism is behind the mic with me. Mr. Seth Wheat, Mr. Adventure himself, welcome to the show.
Hey, Charlie, happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask right off, did you see the eclipse?
I did see the eclipse, but I didn't see the full eclipse. I understand you took a trip. I stayed in Frankfurt, and, a lot of us over in the tourism office, we went outside, we bought our moon pies, and we had the glasses, and we went and watched it in Frankfurt.
What was the totality? What was like 95% in Frankfurt? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, let's call it that. If it wasn't 95, it was somewhere around there. That's close enough. And it was very neat. We went out at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time, so it had already begun, and you could tell there was a little bit of a shade outside, right? It got a little bit darker, but I didn't understand the difference until I saw some of the photos from the Path of Totality.
Yeah.
I think you saw a very different event than what I saw here in Frankfurt.
We did, and we were surprised that even as the moon was covering half and 3/4 of the sun, it was still perfectly daylight outside. You couldn't look at the sun without those eclipse glasses. And when you did, say, well, there's only 1/4 of the sun showing, yet it's bright daylight. And so anybody who didn't see totality, I had put on Facebook, 99% isn't even close to totality.
It was, you noticed the difference. You could tell that it wasn't quite right. But like I said, after I saw some of the photos, I remember one from a rooftop in Bowling Green. There was 3 different shots before, during, and after.
Yeah.
And it was a different feeling and a different look. It looked like evening.
It was
out there,
dark enough that you really couldn't see what you were doing.
That's incredible.
And it happened like within a matter of a minute or two or something like that. It was middle of the afternoon. In western Kentucky at 1:24 in the afternoon, you would have sworn it was 8:30 at night.
Yeah, right.
Or 9, it was getting late.
Yeah.
It was the experience of a lifetime.
Well, like I said, I certainly enjoyed it, what I did see here in Frankfurt, and I have heard nothing but rave reviews from people like you who actually got to go out there and experience it on the Path of Totality.
I was just one of what seemed like a few, but ultimately seemed like one of millions. There were a lot of people I heard talk and see posts say, traffic really isn't that bad. You can come to Hopkinsville. This was the night before, that Sunday night, the 20th. and say, you can still get a seat at a restaurant. I mean, there's places to park. Where are the people? And I got to think, well, surely people are going to go to this. And I went down there. My wife and I left like at 3:30 in the morning from north central Kentucky and drove down there for several hours. We pulled into Litchfield to get gasoline. You had to wait at the pump.
In Litchfield?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
At 4:30 in the morning. There were people in line at the pump.
Wow.
And so going on down there, we noticed, though, that there really isn't this maddening crowd. Like game day traffic, it didn't exist. And we were shocked. We would see fields with people camping out and tents up and canopies and picnics and family reunions and a whole bit going on, but it wasn't overwhelming. But then we're talking about a 70-mile wide path through a lot of farmland in western Kentucky, so there's a lot of room for people to spread out.
Sure.
It's not like they're all at Papa John's Cardinal Stadium.
Right.
And so when the eclipse had ended, Seth, a lot of people got in the car, well, it's over, I'm going home. That's when you notice the rush of people, because they're all going the same place at the same time.
Here's where everybody is.
Holy cow, and you've heard the horror stories coming back to, let's say, Louisville area or wherever you're going. It was many hours longer. For folks coming back, let's just say to Louisville or Lexington, it was an easy 6-hour, maybe 7-hour drive.
Yeah, Commissioner Branscombe with the Department of Tourism got to go out there to the farm in Hopkinsville with the exact epicenter for the longest point of totality. I believe she said she had a 6.5-7-hour trip back home.
It wasn't quick. I like the story you're telling about your brother. You mind telling that again?
Yeah, no, this is pretty interesting. My brother and his family live in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. So, right there off I-65 and right near where the Western Kentucky empties onto I-65. He lives in a neighborhood not far from the interstate, but certainly not near it. And he sent me a picture that evening, Monday evening, at about 6:30, 7 o'clock, with a line of vehicles, standstill traffic, all throughout his neighborhood.
And they had diverted from the highways through the neighborhood?
They had been rerouted off of the interstate, and I assume this was people's GPS on their phone taking them there, or perhaps it was just people following the leader. But this was a neighborhood in Elizabethtown, lined up traffic. So, being the relative of a good tourism official, he went out and handed out popsicles and visited with people.
Handed out popsicles?
Yeah.
That's the route I wanted to take home.
Exactly, right?
That's a great guy.
But that was a really interesting photo he sent to me. I was very surprised to hear that.
I bet people are glad that they detoured by his house.
Yeah, right.
What did the eclipse mean? Do you have any idea of the numbers, of popularity or income, or what that meant for Kentucky tourism? Not
yet, but we're going to start seeing those numbers soon, I believe. The one thing we do have to gauge, and even, internally we had some conversations, how big is it really going to be? And I saw a piece, I believe, in the New York Times talking about a community in Ballard County and, whether or not they were prepared to handle the influx of people and what was the crowd really going to be. So there's a lot of conversation about that beforehand. And the one thing we had that we could point to that said it is going to make a big economic impact and be a big difference is the fact that hotel rooms were sold out for months in advance. And I mentioned that Commissioner Branscombe got to go visit this in Hopkinsville. Well, she had to spend the night in Murray, Kentucky. That's the closest room she could get. So we do know that hotels were full. People were coming and spending the night, and that means a tourism impact. She spent the weekend seeing a lot of different things in western Kentucky, not just in Hopkinsville. And she said there were lines of people everywhere she went. She visited a few distilleries. She visited an art location. She visited a museum, all these different things, and there were lines of people everywhere she went. So we feel pretty confident that there's going to be a really positive economic impact from this. And we felt confident about it going into it, but we really saw that come to fruition. And we should have numbers as people do the reports, for that quarter of the year. I hope it means well for the businesses and the communities, and especially western Kentucky. And I hope that people like what they saw and are willing to come back again, even if that means that we're just going to go to Lake Barkley or Pennyrile State Forest. Well, that's. I'm glad you said that. That was going to be my next point, is that, I mentioned everyone spoke really highly of the eclipse. It was this amazing natural phenomenon. But I also heard overwhelmingly positive reviews of that part of Kentucky. So hopefully what you said will come to fruition, that people will want to come back. not for an eclipse, but just come back to see some of these really neat areas of the state that they happened to see while they were here for the eclipse.
Normally I don't play the license plate game, but at about 4:30 in the morning, we stopped in Litchfield to get some gasoline. And there was a line of cars there at the gas station. And we looked around, and they were from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, all that northeast corridor, New England.
Yeah.
And I assumed that western Kentucky was probably their closest place to see it. So we saw a lot of folks from up there, and we hope that they like what they saw down here in the southern part of the country.
Absolutely.
And we'll come back again where they can stay a little longer. I wish we could have an eclipse every year. We can't. But we certainly know how to host one now when it happens again, if ever.
The next path comes through Kentucky, but 2024, I think, is the next one.
April of 2024, got some time to plan.
Yeah.
Time now, though, for a break, and then back with more of our program on fall outdoor adventure from around the Bluegrass State. Stay with us. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Charlie Baglan, we are back on Kentucky Afield Radio. Seth Wheat is with me. He is from the Office of Adventure Tourism, and he is here with some ideas to make the fall season something to remember. But the biggest event that I know of is happening in October, and that's your wedding, and congratulations. Are you nervous?
Well, first off, thank you. I am nervous. I am anxious, I think, maybe more so than nervous. We're excited. I think we're ready to, a lot of planning.
I think you're ready to get it over with.
We are,
Get over with your life.
Even if that sounds, I don't mean that in a bad way. It may sound bad. I don't mean it that way. But, we are doing a very small wedding. And even that, it still takes a lot to plan. So it's quickly approaching. We're anxious, but we're ready to do it, get it done, go on the honeymoon, and then get on with life.
One thing I remember about my wedding, I was really surprised is that there's always a group of friends that want to take you out to dinner or have you over for a toast or have a little gathering, showers, and those types of things, and that's traditional.
Yes.
I understand that.
Yes.
But they seem to be unending.
Yes.
And you love every minute of it, but you want to get on with your life because you become absorbed in it. That's the one thing hopefully you'll do once in your life, so enjoy every minute of that.
Yes, thank you very much, and if all goes according to plan, which I intend, this will be a one-time only event for me.
Well, fall events in Kentucky, where would you like to begin?
Well, we can really start anywhere. We'll start with the Color Fall campaign.
Color Fall. Absolutely. When do you think the first colors we will start seeing? My wife was complaining the other day. I see a red leaf on this tree, and this was like in August. And I said, well, it happens. I don't know which species of tree, but you'll start seeing some earlier and some later. You
can probably speak to this better than I can, but there are a lot of factors that determine when we're going to start seeing color change. I believe the amount of rainfall we get during the summer, the temperatures, which by most accounts, we had a relatively mild summer, I think. The beginning of summer was pretty wet, so will that mean it'll be a little earlier or a little later?
I'm not the arborist.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do know that without fail, we have fall every year.
Yes, we're going to have it every year.
Yeah, if it's a week or two off, I don't know. But it will come, and we will enjoy every color.
Yes, we will. And, on that note, like we have done in years past, we, the Department of Tourism, are asking you all to help us document this great change of color that happens all over Kentucky. We're going to build a special page on our website for people to upload their own photos. Use the hashtag KYColorFall. Tell us where you're taking your photos. Tell us when you're seeing it so we can provide some more real-time information for somebody that may, people out of state that want to check it out that are going to be coming through Kentucky, or maybe you're in-state and you want to go see a new part of the state while the leaves are changing. So you'll be able to plan a little better. Okay, it's getting close to peak time. Let's take off this weekend and go to Pine Mountain State Park or Kingdom Come or wherever it may be. It's going to be different region to region to region in the state, I trust. It will. Now, when you put in this hashtag ColorFall, hashtag KYColorFall, KYColorFall, you put that in the Google search box? Or you can search that through Google. You can also, you'll find the page on our website. Our website is KentuckyTourism.com. You'll find it there on the homepage, or you can go directly to KentuckyTourism.com/seasons, and you'll see all these photos. We'll have a feature that will upload people from around the state's photos. So when you use your social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, use that hashtag, and that will help us compile the images to upload for the website.
So you're asking anybody, even if it was my wife, and said, I see a red leaf, she could take a picture of that, tell you where she is and when.
You got it. Then
that would at least be a start.
I hope she does. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, she has something to do today. We got to go out and find that tree again.
Yeah.
So anybody can do that, and you want that to start, you can go ahead and start now.
Go ahead and start now. Absolutely. Of course.
All right. So take a picture, put it on Facebook,
Instagram, Twitter, any social media accounts, anywhere that you would be using a hashtag. Use that hashtag, and that will gather all the photos for us that we'll be able to share, and then you can find your photo on the Kentucky Tourism website.
This may be an introduction for someone using a hashtag.
It might be.
So when you put the photo up, like where it would say description,
sure,
you just put hashtag.
You can put hashtag there. On Twitter, you have, you're the ability to upload the photos and also a brief message. You use it there in the body of the message. Same thing with Instagram.
Okay.
The messaging that goes along with the photo. Well, you can track it on the social media sites. Everything has a time and a date stamp, so we can keep track of it that way. But if you'd like, feel free to go ahead and just include that with the photo. Like I said, we're at Pine Mountain State Park. It's October 4th, and here we are in the morning looking out over Pine Mountain. There's the Haywatt color fall. Absolutely.
Fall colors are something we look forward to. So if it's fall in Kentucky, I think Keeneland.
Yeah.
The fall meet.
Absolutely.
I've got the dates here. October 6th goes all the way through the 28th.
Yeah.
Will you be betting on the ponies to take this fall?
Well, as we touched on earlier, I have a bit of a busy October.
Yes.
But we are actually hoping that we're going to get to go towards the latter half of the meet. We did not get to go this past spring, but we did go last fall. The great thing about the Keeneland meets are they come in our transitional seasons. So you're either coming out of winter or you're coming out of the dog days of summer, and you're gearing up towards the peak of fall. So it's just a great time to be outside. And it's a great thing to do while you're outside. It's good for friends. You can tailgate. So I have a hope. It may not come to fruition, but I'm hoping that we will make it to Keeneland this fall.
I can't remember exactly when the first race is. I'm wanting to say like 108, something like that.
Yeah, they generally start middle of the day.
Gates open every day at 11 o'clock. You have the afternoon full of races. Are there opportunities, Seth, as folks would come into Lexington or maybe even live there and have not ever done this, to take a horse farm tour?
There are, and that's actually something that's growing in popularity, surprising enough. And I say it's surprising because, we have such a rich history of thoroughbred racing, and that's such a big part of Kentucky's tradition. But there were a limited number of opportunities available to actually take a tour. But there's a new group out there called Horse Country. They have a website where they have partnered with a number of different horse farms and will help you schedule tours, get you from horse farm and back again, and really kind of package an experience together for you. And I've been able to do one, and it was fantastic. And you can find out more information on that. Visit horsecountry.com, and they'll set everything up for you. I'd highly recommend it while you're in town for Keeneland.
One thing about Kentucky in the fall, it's one of my favorite things, is the fall festivals.
Yeah, it's festival season, isn't it?
It is. There were a lot in September. We look ahead here to the end of September, even in through October. There's a long list. No way we'll ever be able to talk about all of them. But in advance of that, where can we go on your website to learn more about festivals?
KentuckyTourism.com. You'll see a tab there for events. Once you get on that page, you can sort by interest, so you can look for just outdoor events. You can look for events based around food or drink, horse events. You can categorize it. You can search by date. If you're coming from out of state and you know when you'll be in Kentucky, you want to see what festivals are going on, narrow your search window by date. But you'll see an extensive list of things happening in Kentucky, including all of our wonderful festivals, all on the website, KentuckyTourism.com. And, one thing that I thought might be fun to do is, as we're looking at our list here, we have a lot of big-name festivals in Kentucky. Derby Festival comes to mind. Thunder over Louisville. A lot of 4th of July things. The Bourbon Festival that just wrapped up in Bardstown. But so many of our communities have their own festivals that they've been doing for years and years. And there's so much good and fun stuff to see and do there. And they don't maybe get all the attention all the time. But I'm looking at things like, if you're from Central Kentucky, maybe you know about the Burgoo Festival that happens in Lawrenceburg and Anderson County every year.
Absolutely.
But if you're from East Kentucky or West Kentucky, maybe you've never been to that. Maybe you've heard of Burgoo, but you want to try some, come up to Anderson County. last weekend in September through the 1st of October. We have Barbecue on the River happening, looks like next weekend, out in Paducah. And by the way, if you've never been to historic downtown Paducah in western Kentucky, I just got back from a trip out there. Highly recommend it. A lot of fun stuff going on in Paducah, right there on the river. Same could be said for Owensboro, another westernish Kentucky city. But they've got their barbecue festival September 28th through 30th. The Ham Festival in Cadiz. You know where Cadiz is?
I sure know. I'm right there in Trigg County.
Right there in Trigg County.
Great archery team.
So, make a trip of it. Go see Lake Barkley State Park and go check out the Ham Festival there in Cadiz.
There is one that I have to plug shamelessly.
Go for it.
Carroll County Tobacco Festival. Sure. I grew up in a little town of Carroll. That's northern Kentucky on the river. Mm-hmm. I remember I was like maybe 10 or 11. I rode my bicycle in that parade. I was the coolest dude on the street.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Me and the 40 other kids. I was lost in the crowd. We call it Tobacco Festival.
Now, I know Owen County has some. Does Carroll County also have the barns that they've painted the tobacco scenes on the outside of?
We used to. There used to be a dozen of these huge tobacco barns.
Yeah.
They're gone now. There's big empty fields where they used to be since the decline of the tobacco market.
I know in Owen County, which is very close to Carroll County, so you could combine this trip here, they have painted several tobacco barns to show different steps of the process. From planting to harvest to drying and all this. And so that's kind of neat to drive around and just take a tour, take a day and drive around and check that out. And then go to the, what'd you call it, the Backer Festival?
Backer Festival.
Backer Festival, there you go.
Absolutely. I wish those big tobacco barns were there still, but there may be one or two or three left.
Yeah.
Growers up there along the Ohio River, I'm pretty sure is still there. But there were a lot of huge ones right there in town, and no more. Okay, we need to get to a break. We have a fishing report standing by, and then more reasons to get outdoors. It's fall, y'all. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. If you would like to hear the show again, it's easily done. Why don't you try first going to our Facebook page. You'll find links there, and you can re-listen. You can email the link to a friend or share it on Facebook. Also, we're on YouTube. It's time now for our fishing report.
This is Jeff Crosby with the Central District Fishing Report. Black bass fishing continues to be fair to good at many of our area lakes, such as Taylorsville, Harrington, and Gist Creek lakes. Plastic baits, preacher baits, pig and jig combinations can be productive when fished around shoreline cover, but always look for the shad in those lakes to find a few fish. At Taylorsville, the channel and blue cat fishing continues to be very good, using cut shad in about 8 to 15 feet of water, especially fishing around the edge of river and creek channels. Finally, fishing in neighborhood program Finns Lakes is another opportunity to catch a few channel catfish this month on night crawlers, livers, or any type of commercial stink bait bought at your local sporting goods store. So grab a pole and enjoy some great summer fishing. Hope to see you on the water.
In western Kentucky, down at Kentucky and Barkley Lake, it's fall fishing season. So it's that time of the year that I like to say rocks and docks. So I'm looking for some rocky shoreline, some stuff that maybe steps off pretty quick into deeper water. That's where those bass are going to be hanging out. And then also around some docks where you've got enough water. It's still kind of sunny out. It's still summery type conditions. And so those bass may seek those docks for a little bit of shade during the day. And so rocks and docks is what I think of. As for crappie, they've all kind of moved back out. Again, that lake level falling has pulled them out to the secondary ledges. Below the dams, still some good catfishing going on. Dip you up some shad. They like the live bait or some cut bait. It's good for those blue cats. Well, this is Paul Reister, and I hope you find a good day to go fishing.
This is Rob Rold in the Northwestern Fishery District. Our two reservoirs, Rough River Lake and Nolin River Lake, are both at summer pool and surface temperatures in the mid to upper 70s. And with the little bit of cooler weather and cooler water temps we've had, the bass fishing seems to have picked up just a little bit from what it has been this summer. Anglers have been catching some nice bass on swim jigs and chatterbaits back up in the creeks. White bass, still a few scattered jumps going on early in the day. And at Peabody WMA, the bass fishing's picked up there a bit too. and anglers there are having the most success using some topwater baits on the strip pits early and late in the day. Catfish still active on our reservoirs and small impoundments. As always, please remember to wear your life jackets and be safe on the water.
Hip's a hip word, hip-hop music. This cat is really hip, says 70s star Sammy Davis Jr. But for migratory bird hunters, HIP is the law. HIP stands for Harvest Information Program. To hunt birds like doves or geese, you must complete the HIP survey first to help officials better estimate game bird populations. Go to the My Profile page at the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife website. You just need 5 minutes. Hip hip hooray. fw.ky.gov.
I have never seen anything like this.
I can't believe I waited so long.
What will you say?
My heart was pounding.
This is Kentucky. It's deer season, and it's
outstanding.
43 Boone and Crockett deer last year. Modern gun season opens November 11th, with archery season open now.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I can't believe I made the shot.
Get your license and deer permit now, and take aim on the thrill at fw.ky.gov. Into our second half hour, this is Charlie Baglan on Kentucky Afield Radio, joined by a regular on the show, Seth Wheat from the Kentucky Office of Adventure Tourism. We left off on the subject of fall festivals. Now here's one, the Apple Festival in Paintsville.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been to that one before, back near where I grew up in eastern Kentucky. It's been going on for several years.
They have a parade. They have carnival rides. That's a good time.
Sure. A few weeks after that in Mumfordville, which those of you that have listened to the show and heard me in the past know that we push trail towns, our communities that have got great trails and rivers and things like that. Mumfordville is our newest trail town, and they have a barbecue cook-off that they've been doing for a few years now. That's going to happen October 20th and 21st, called the Big Buffalo Crossing Barbecue Cook-Off. And you can learn about that at visitmumfordville.com.
Let's take a second to talk and explain what a trail town is.
Okay, sure.
I liken it to like what Gatlinburg is to the Smokies. Would that be fair?
That's a pretty fair statement. I want to be clear that I'm not trying to build a bunch of Gatlinburgs in Kentucky, but the idea that Gatlinburg was really built up and served as the gateway to the Smokies, that's what we're trying to talk about with these towns. So, Mumfordville sits right there on the Green River, which is a very popular river to paddle on, and you can actually get to Mammoth Cave National Park.
What's the difference between Mumfordville today and what it was 5 years ago as a trail town? What's different?
Well, it's in the process of becoming different, and not just different for difference sake, but the idea behind trail towns, other than the outdoor recreational component, which again, it's the river. They have hiking trails they've been working on building and improving. They're offering some camping. They have an outfitter there in town. But the other ideas behind the trail town are that they're good places to visit. They're places that are maybe different than where you're from, and so they have really bought into this idea of placemaking and trying to provide authentically Kentucky experiences. You'll find local-owned restaurants. You'll find local-owned stores that sell goods and provide products that maybe you don't have where you're from, and you can get a feel for what it's like to live and be in Mumfordville. That kind of thing. That's what we're after with the trail towns.
Rattle off a few of your newer trail towns, if you will.
Mumfordville, again, was the newest. Before them, Slade, which is a community in Powell County, and they're in the Red River Gorge. One of our most popular.
The Natural Bridge State
Resort Park, the wonderful climbing we have in the gorge. Miguel's Pizza. That kind of thing is what we're trying to do with our trail towns. But anyway, before them was McKee in Jackson County. They are on the Sheltoe Trace, which is our state's longest hiking trail. They are also on the Trans-American Cycling Route. That's the bicycle route, Charlie, that goes from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean, right through downtown McKee.
Sweet.
They're one of our newest ones, so they get a ton of cyclists every year coming through on that trail. We have 16 total, spread out all over Kentucky. And again, you'll find trail towns near national parks, state parks, long-distance trail systems, rivers, lakes, creeks, places that have good stuff to do outside. That's where you're going to find these things. Watch for them.
Other things going on in the state this fall, the 46th Annual Forkland Heritage Festival in Danville. That's a lot of good music, a lot of good food there.
Danville does a lot of festivals throughout the year, and I have never heard a bad thing about the festivals that they have. What's the big one they do, the Jazz Festival every year? That's a good one, I
like festivals that are in October, and they call them Oktoberfest. Sure. However, I have seen Oktoberfest in other months of the year. I've seen Oktoberfest taking place in September. I guess Oktoberfest doesn't necessarily mean the month, does it? Do you know?
Not with certainty, but I believe the big Oktoberfest in Germany, doesn't it happen in September?
I don't know.
I think it might, and I think you're on track there, that because the Oktoberfest will spell OKT.
Yeah,
right,
okay.
not OCT.
Right.
Yeah. So there's Oktoberfest that's, going on right now in Newport, Northern Kentucky. And there was one that just happened a few weeks ago, looks like also up Northern Kentucky, up in Covington. So, yeah, there are some September Oktoberfest, as odd as that sounds.
October 13th, there was an Oktoberfest in Harrodsburg, Kentucky.
Excellent.
Check that one out. The Salt Festival in Union.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I like that. It says, journey back in time, reading from your website. Big Bone Lick returns to the days of the long, long ago. Festival features demonstrations of pioneer living and frontier skills, frontier ingenuity.
Yes.
So you've got that going on at the Salt Fest, that's in Union.
If you are a history fan or, you enjoy the pioneer life, learning how life was back then, that is an excellent one to go visit. The staff up at Big Bone Lick, they do a great job, and that's a real popular festival for them every year.
Now, you're a Pikeville boy. Have we missed your big festival?
No. Our big festival is, of course, Hillbilly Days. And we've talked about it on the show, and that's a big one for Eastern Kentucky. But that happens in the spring, every April. Yeah.
So we're not late. We're early.
We could be early,
We're early for that.
To see everything, KentuckyTourism.com. Go to events. You can search all the festivals. September, October, and a few carry over into November. But there are a lot of things happening in Kentucky around this time of year, and it's a wide variety of topics. So if you're interested in country ham, we already told you go to Katie's. If you want to see what Oktoberfest is all about, looks like you've got some opportunities up in northern Kentucky. Check the website, KentuckyTourism.com.
Seth Wheat, what's going on in our state parks around the state come fall?
Couple of exciting things happening at state parks, as always. One thing I want to mention real quick is that we have had 2 state parks in the recent past that were damaged by fire and were closed. That was Greenbow and Jenny Wiley, and I'm happy to say that those have both been reopened. So if you had been looking to go visit Jenny Wiley in Floyd County or Greenbow State Park, go ahead and go. They are open, and they have been renovated and are doing well. But to the events at state parks, one thing I wanted to mention is that we are extending the campgrounds into November this year.
When do they normally close?
Normally they close in October, normally at the end of October. This year they're going to stay open into the middle of November at least, weather dependent, of course. If we get some, which is not out of the realm of possibility in Kentucky, some weird snowstorm, then they'll close early. But they're going to stay open through mid-November this year, and it's a great opportunity to stay at our state parks. Most all of them have a really great campground.
A couple of things going on at state parks I wanted to bring up. First, you talked about Jenny Wiley. Elk tours. It's bugling season.
It is bugling season, that's right.
Are these elk tours offered out of the park?
They are.
Trinity Shepherd,
the naturalist, he does a fantastic job. Those that have listened often have heard us talk about elk tours at other times of the year. They do them in the winter also. But like you just mentioned, this is bugling season. So this is a very different experience and a very different tour that you're going to go on this time of year compared to, say, January. Go check out Jenny Wiley. Again, just reopened. They have a new lounge they built right on Dewey Lake, and sign up for one of the fall elk tours.
Bugling is the mating call. That you would think a huge, 1,000, 1,100-pound animal wouldn't have such a high-pitched voice, but it does.
Can you make the bugle, Charlie?
No.
Do we have an elk call in here?
I can play one electronically. So that's what a elk bugle. So to hear them, but to see them do it and see the steam come out of their nose early in the morning as they make these calls, that's nature at its best. You're right there seeing it firsthand.
Absolutely.
Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up about state parks in the fall, go see the moonbow. There's opportunity. As it gets darker earlier, and you will likely have an opportunity to see the moonbow and not have to stay up as late. If you've never seen this at Cumberland Falls State Resort Park, a couple of full moons coming up in October and November. Happens like the 5th of each month, like the October 5th and then November 4th. And so it's a couple of days either side of that, as long as you have a clear night.
Right.
Check the viewing times by contacting the park, and I think it's on the website.
It is, absolutely. Parks.ky.gov, as well as our tourism site, and they'll actually list out the full moons and the window on either side of the full moon date that you can see the moonbow.
The moon has sort of a weird orbit. It's elliptical, and so it won't rise at the same time daily, and you'll have to look at that to know when it's going to suit your schedule better and combine that with the forecast. Has to be clear.
Has to be clear.
But it is really it's right up there with the eclipse. It's just something you don't see.
It's a natural phenomenon.
Hardly ever at all.
Now, luckily, we won't have to wait many years. If you miss it in October, don't worry, it'll be back in November.
You can see it monthly, but it's you that has to go down to the banks of the Cumberland River, often late at night, and you're miles from home. But it's worth seeing.
Oh, it's absolutely worth seeing.
Have you seen it yet?
I have, and we actually got turned around 1 month because it ended up being too cloudy, so it took us 2 months to see it. But you know what? The nice thing is that there's plenty else to see and do at Cumberland Falls, so it's never a wasted trip. But it is really special if you're able to work out the moonbow. Our state parks, other than these festivals like we talked about at Big Bone and some of the stuff going on with the elk tours, we have a number of parks that do special Halloween events. Carter Caves does a haunted trail every year.
Nice.
We do trick-or-treats at some of our parks, so go to their website, parks.ky.gov, and you can see the full slate of Halloween events that are happening all across Kentucky at our great state parks.
The Salado Wildlife Education Center in Frankfort, one of the events that they feature every year is called the Halloween Walk with the Animals. It's coming up Saturday, the 28th of October, noon until 5 Eastern Time. You can see the wildlife of Kentucky. And what I mean by that is animals you wouldn't typically see elsewhere, such as bear and elk, bald eagles. There's deer there, trout, reading from their flyer. A hay maze, fishing booths, treats. Members get in free. Otherwise, it's pretty cheap price. So circle that, October the 28th. That's a Saturday at the Salado Wildlife Education Center.
Salado's great. If you haven't been to Salado, even if you don't come for the special event, the walk with the animals, you need to come check it out. There's some really neat exhibits out there, and it's a really nice feature to have in Frankfort.
A lot of hunting opportunities going on, Seth. I assume you were fortunate on opening day of dove season. Are you an archery hunter for deer and turkey?
I am not. I could sit here and pretend to be. I have a bow. It's a really fun thing to do, but I have a number of other expensive hobbies that divert my money and attention. So at one point, I'd like to think I will give another go at getting into bow hunting. But I am looking forward to muzzleloader season coming up and fall turkey, shotgun season. I love hunting turkeys in the fall. I think spring season is awesome when they gobble, but fall is just such a great time to be outdoors doing anything, and I really enjoy getting up on a cool, crisp fall morning and hunting turkey. So I am looking forward to the shotgun season at the end of October, and then, of course, I will rifle hunt for deer next month in November. But yeah, we're really in the swing of things. If you're a sportsman, this is a great time of year. Fishing's picked back up.
Yeah.
Temperatures cool down. Fish get more active. For almost any species you want to go after, this is a good time to fish. So,
yeah, that reminds me, trout season. We'll start there the instant we come back. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Charlie Baglan back on Kentucky Afield Radio with Seth Wheat from the Kentucky Office of Adventure Tourism, talking about reasons to get outside and play this fall.
It's a great time to be outside in Kentucky. There's no doubt about that.
Second Saturday of November opens the modern gun deer season. Also going on, catch and release trout season. That's another word for that is delayed harvest. It means you can catch them, but you can't keep them until after the season closes. So the delayed harvest season, or the catch and release season, goes generally October 1 through, on most creeks, the end of March. I think there's one in Red River Gorge Swift Camp that goes on into May.
That's a great opportunity, that catch and release season. So, if you've always wanted to learn how to fly fish, or even if you're not fly fishing, you just want to go experience trout fishing. I know there are several creeks down around the Big South Fork and the southern end of the Daniel Boone National Forest. And the Red River Gorge you mentioned has some trout waters.
Yeah.
There are some options. And, of course, Hatchery Creek, the great partnership project down there below Wolf Creek Dam and the Wolf Creek Fish Hatchery. So there are opportunities.
I'm going to list off these trout streams in Kentucky. Bark Camp Creek, that's in Whitley County. Go to Beaver Creek in Wayne County. Boone County has Big Bone Creek. Elliott County is Big Caney Creek, Cane Creek and Laurel, Casey Creek and Trigg, Wolf County, Chimney Top Creek. If you're in Bell County, you can trout fish at Clear Creek, Caney Creek and Rowan. Menifee has East Fork Indian Creek. Keep in mind, this isn't the entire creek that's under the catch and release restrictions, but it'll point out where it is. It may be just from 1 mile point or one landmark to another. You can Google it. You'll find the list, and you'll find all the specifics. There are opportunities left and right.
I started to say that's the most surprising thing to me is I have never looked at that whole list, but that's a pretty good geographic distribution there, isn't it?
It is. Now, fall fishing in Kentucky is why they made fishing poles to begin with.
You think so?
Yeah, you'll listen to our fishing report right here on the show, and you hear opportunity after opportunity, and they are biting. I got an email from you, Seth, that talked about some of the things going on. This Bourbon Country Burn, what is that?
So this is a brand new event this year. This is a cycling event, road cycling, that will take cyclists to some of our bourbon distilleries on the Bourbon Trail. So it combines a couple of different, tourism features for this central Kentucky region. Bourbon distilleries, there's camping at the Kentucky Horse Park, and riding on some of our great central Kentucky roads. And I think people have heard me talk before. There's good cycling all over Kentucky, but this bluegrass region of Kentucky, central Kentucky, has a really nice amount of elevation change and scenery and something that cyclists really look for. So this new event happening, I think it's the last weekend in September through the first day of October. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it looks like the group that's putting it on has really got their stuff together and going to provide a really fun event, riding all the different bourbon distilleries. So to learn exactly which distilleries they're visiting, find out the schedule, registration opportunities, bourbon.countryburn.com, all spelled out. And, of course, they're active on social media also. You can find them there.
Rocktoberfest. That sounds like a rock climbing
It is a rock climbing event. It's been happening for several years. It is put on by the Red River Gorge Climbers Coalition.
Familiar with them.
A phenomenal group out of that region, and they do this event every year for a fundraiser. There are competitions, there are vendors, there's good food, good drink, good music. It is a weekend-long festival in the Red River Gorge. It's been happening for several years. So if you are a rock climber, or if you think I'd be interested in rock climbing, I want to know more about it, this would be an opportunity to go learn Rocktoberfest.
As long as we're talking about Red River Gorge, there is a 50th anniversary taking place there. I don't know in how grand a fashion this is going to be observed because, granted, this is something that happened 50 years ago. There's not many people still around from 67 with a vivid memory. We did a special program on this. They were going to take Red River Gorge and flood it and make Red River Lake. And in the 60s, this was common, and the people of Powell County were getting a lot of flooding, like, say, in Stanton and Clay City. Anyway, this all sort of came to a head and lasted for years, this controversy. But it began on November 18th of 1967. To add 50 to that, and you've got this coming November 18th. It's worth Googling just to take a look. And if you just like the old time, you may want to go down to the Red River Gorge and take a hike and think, well, I could be swimming in a lake, but instead I'm overlooking all these towering cliffs. That's something you might want to take a look at.
It's funny that you mentioned that because it wasn't long ago that I just heard that story for the first time. A gentleman named Joe Bowen who lives in Powell County, and if anybody's ever done an event or done much in Powell County, you've probably heard of Joe Bowen. He told me that story, and it was fascinating to me because, one, I like history, but there were a lot of moving parts, and it was a really big deal.
It was.
The Supreme Court got involved, I believe. I believe Diane Sawyer was involved. It was one of her first.
Yeah, she was a cub reporter in Louisville at the time.
So a really neat story there. I agree. If you've got time, look that up on Google and learn a little bit about that.
It's a heck of a story. Of course, Kentucky Afield Radio did a special on it. It's called Kentucky's Red November. You'll find the full story on YouTube. It's worth listening to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seth, anything left on your list before we close this program?
We'll talk about one more event going on in Knott County, Kentucky. This is not a new event. This event's has been going on for more than a decade. It is the annual Knott County Fall Trail Ride. It's the big horseback event that happens every year in Knott County.
Knott County?
Not County.
Yes. Knott County.
Knott County.
Okay.
No, they have food, they have vendors, they have live music. You can stay out all week and camp and go on a number of different guided horseback rides. It's really popular. If you've never done it, it's something worth doing and worth seeing because they get a huge turnout. Some years, I believe, their numbers have pushed 10,000 people for this trail ride. So go check it out if you like to ride. You can find more information on Knott County Tourism's website. Just Google search it, Knott County Fall Trail Ride.
In case anybody has joined the show late, let's hit that Color Fall one more time. What you're looking for in the hashtag.
Yeah, absolutely. Color Fall is the campaign we do every year to highlight the changing of the leaves in Kentucky. If you are out in Kentucky and want to take some pictures and share those with us, use the hashtag KYColorFall, and that will populate images for us to share on our website so that folks can see in real time where and when the leaves are changing in Kentucky.
Sounds good. Sounds like a great fall coming up. And I guess the next time we see you, you'll be a married man.
It looks like it. Yes, sir.
Okay, congratulations. We'll talk to you then.
Thank you, sir.
Make your own adventure this fall. You can search the Fish and Wildlife website at fw.ky.gov or my guest site at the Kentucky Office of Adventure Tourism. Just go to kentuckytourism.com/adventure. We're out of time. This is Charlie Baglan, inviting you to join us in a week, and we'll go inside outdoors again here on Kentucky Afield Radio.